All right, YouTube Repo Man 64. It is windy out here in Florida, North Florida. Very windy. We just had a storm blow through earlier today, but must be a cold front coming. It's probably going to get cold out here pretty soon. I have to work for the next 7 days straight, so I decided to come out here and make a quick video reiterating some stuff. I just watched the interview that Aaron from Got a Minute had with CJ Lovick, and I loved it. No pun intended. It was awesome. It was an awesome video. CJ said something that caught my attention. We don't agree on the dates, but we do agree that our hearts are searching for Jesus. And in the video, he even said, knowing the right exact date doesn't save you. Jesus does. And so always remember that all these videos and all this work we do, presenting these ideas to you, giving you hope for the next stone that we cross to get on the other side to the rapture, is just us trying to figure it out. And I think it's left ambiguous on purpose, because I believe that God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit revel in our researching the Word of God. You're actually becoming intimate with Jesus. He is the Word, and you become intimate with Him as you research this stuff out. And um, I would never make a video disregarding anyone else's understanding of time. I don't believe in the sliver moon. I've made that clear, but I wouldn't make a video going, well, this guy does, so he's not saved. That's ridiculous. Sister Sandy helps me more than anyone I know, from New Zealand. And we bounce ideas off of each other all the time. And while we don't agree on the year that Jesus was crucified, I'm going to prove her wrong right now. I'm going to give you my interpretation of when it happened, my understanding, and why it is when I think it was. And I've never wavered on that. I didn't care that the 2000 year mark passed. And I think it's a hang up that people have in the Bible where it says, and after 2 days, and in the third day, and they're trying to line it up with exactly 2000 years. Yeah, the tribulation is in 2032, but he didn't go to the cross in 32. After 2 days would be me after the 2000 years, at some point in the 3000 year. That's what the verse reads. And so if you're using 32 AD, you literally have to wait for some point after whenever he went to the cross in 32 AD, after 2032, and then of course back up 7 for the tribulation period. And so I think those bases are covered with a 30 AD, because now we're in the third year. We're well into it by, I think it's a year and a half now. And so, or 2 years, actually, we're into it for 2 years. And so, for me, that fulfills the passage. What doesn't fulfill the passage for me is to say he went to the cross in 32 AD. Just mathematically for me won't work. The reason it won't is because the temple was in fact destroyed on the 9th of Av in 70 AD. This is a recorded fact. They didn't record a lot of facts about Jesus. They tried to erase all that, but they did record when the temple was destroyed, and it was actually destroyed 14,726 days. You like that number? 14,726 days after Jesus went to the cross. So I'm going to go through this, make a video for you all. And if I can sneak out here at some point during the 7 days, if I'm not too wide, it's a very physical job. And I just have to, maybe I can sneak out here and do something. All right, so let's share the screen. I'm sniffly. It's cold out here. I apologize. All right, we are sharing the screen. Let me move my picture up and out of the way. Sorry about the sniffles. All right. Oh, Bree made this. This is hilarious. She made this. She started a new channel, Heavens Echoes by Looking Up. She has a Facebook and I think YouTube also called Looking Up. And she started this. Now, I've played music on here before and the sound didn't come through. I can hear it, but you guys couldn't. So I'm going to play it in the hopes that there's no locks on this and it actually plays through. I don't know why that happens, but This is from Bree. She made this for me, and I really appreciate it. It was so cool. It was so cool that she did this. And again, I don't know if you can hear this or not. If you can't hear this, at least it's graphical. You can read it. Anyway, I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Like I said, every time I play a video, you can't hear the audio. But if you want to hear this song by looking up, it's right here on Heaven's Echoes by looking up. She's actually making quite a few. Let me put this on pause just in case it actually is playing audio. But she's been making different songs and for just for the Rapture and stuff for the end. This isn't the only song she's created. While I appreciate it, it's awesome. I look forward to her creating some kind of song like this for Dr. Barry. I think that would be hilarious. At any rate, um, yes, awesome song. Thank you, Bree, for that. And hopefully we can get you more than 34 subscribers here to Heaven's Echoes by looking up. Uh, it's well worth it because again, not just my song, but the other songs that she's showing. Let's see here. I don't know how to get out of this now because well, I guess I could do this. I don't really have to get out of it. I wish this thing would go away. There it goes. Okay, go back to this. There's a few solid things we can't change. To the very day plus 14 days from the creation of man to Jesus. Creation began, and I'll show you this in a moment, in 4004 BC, but very quickly, that was on September the 11th, Elul 28, but very quickly by Tishri 1, as we all know, they're still doing it, that Tishri 1 is the Feast of Trumpets now. Back then it was Rosh Hashanah, it was the head of the year. From like just 3 days later, 4 days later, he creates time, and then on the fifth day is the first day of the year, which made it change from 4004 to 4003. Jesus came here in 3 BC, exactly 4,000 years and 14 days later, because it was September the 16th where he created man. Jesus came to fix all that mess just 4,000 years and 14 days later. Now, he was here for 33 and a half years. I get comments all the time and trying to change this. This is not changeable. Jesus was here for 33 and a half years. In the book of Luke, it records that he was about 30 years old. He was, in fact, 5 days before his 30th birthday. And his ministry was 3.5 years. It wasn't 2.5 years or 5.5 years. It was 3.5 years. That can't change. If this is 4,000 years from creation, and this is 33 and a half years, then this is the date he went to the cross. Now, there's a lot of reasons why it was 30 AD. Again, after 2,000 years and in the third year, after 2 days and in the third day, it has to be past 2032. It has to be past 2030, which is 2032. And it is in September of 2032. So we have a discrepancy of 2.5 years. And what they'll do is they'll either add it to here or they'll deduct it from here, but they will move it somehow from 30 AD to try to match the 32 AD. It simply doesn't. It doesn't work mathematically. I can't reconcile it in any way. However, and this isn't disparaging against anyone who has looked at 32 AD by any means, because mathematically there are other equations like Sister Sandy has where she's come up with 32 AD, and that's fine. I just can't. Um, 70 AD, again, is when the temple was destroyed, 40 years later, or 14,726 days. So for me, this is solid. This can't change for me. Um, we're coming into a lot of events right now. This is the original timeline that I built 6 years ago, and I've been working off of it for 5 years. And then I built the graph timeline. 6 years you shall work, and the seventh you shall rest, which very quickly graduated into, well, now if I know that 6 years you work and on the seventh you rest, it actually graduates into the Jubilee calendar. And I'm like most people, I counted a Jubilee at 50 years, and that simply is not accurate. It's 49. It is not 50. So we're right around in here. I don't have my watch, which is rare. Oh, maybe my phone will tell me. That's the fifth. Tomorrow is the sixth. It's already the sixth in Israel. And on my timeline, if it is the equinox, the day of equal parts, which just so happens to fit perfectly with September the 25th as being the Day of Atonement, with all that fitting absolutely perfectly, I believe that's accurate. But if it's the equinox or the sliver moon or whatever it could be after that, we just simply go on from there. I believe it's Rosh Hashanah. I believe the rapture's on Rosh Hashanah. So, and I believe Rosh Hashanah starts at sunset on March 16th. Windy. So, all that being said, we are right here on March the 6th. Is that, well, March the 5th, coming up on March the 6th. We are 10 days away. Personally, and this isn't, the day is going to happen. They will be eating, drinking. There won't be any, so we're not going to see this massive nuclear event. We're not going to see this massive earthquake. We'll see an uptick in all these things. And as a matter of fact, we've seen a huge uptick in earthquakes, huge uptick in volcanoes, social unrest, people fighting against people where they weren't before. We're seeing all this stuff going on right now. Storms, bizarre storms. Chris up there, and Global Rapture Watchers is just going through it with all the water happening up there. And he's awesome. He's been collecting donations and helping a lot of people up there. So he is equipped to do such things. So that would be a very helpful to help out Chris so that he could help out those people. Now, I'm aware that on March 14th is a blood moon. This is not Purim on my timeline. Purim happened back here on February the 28th. March 14th is when Lazarus became sick. March 13th, he gets sick. March 14th is when Mary and Martha send the messengers to warn Jesus. Somebody asked, do you think that could be Moses and Elijah? No, it was just two guys. It was just two guys sent out. Could they have been posing as two guys? I don't know. That would be, for me, a bit of a stretch, but it's honestly something cool to think about, I suppose. But we go over here, and Adar 14 is when Lazarus got sick, and Adar 31, March 16th, is when he died. This is the day Jesus said, are there not 12 hours in the day? This is also the day that Enoch 72:20 says that this is the last day of the year, beginning the first day of the year. So March 16th is huge for me. I basically just want you to watch. It doesn't save you, but I want you to know that if you are not saved and you haven't just knelt down and asked Jesus into your heart at this point, you're very late, but it's not too late. You're very late, but it is not too late. March 16th is literally 10 days away. And so, will we see something prior to that? I've always thought maybe we'd see some kind of a hint 7 days before. Wackadoodle Samoan put out a video. Of course, you could say, nah, that's not true. Somebody's making it up. But apparently, the wife, the husband, and the child saw this person come to their door. They had white hair. and they knocked on the door and said the rapture is coming soon, I believe. You can have to go watch it on Wackadoodle Simone. It was very, very compelling. In that the husband, who apparently is not a believer as of yet, hopefully he is now, hopefully he is now, um, is not a believer, saw this and attested to the fact that it did happen. So again, these are personable, directed at an individual. I would not suspect that each one of us will get somebody with long white hair knocking on our door telling us the rapture is near. But perhaps that family needed that, and perhaps that husband went to a quiet place and accepted the Lord and is saved now. That could possibly be why that happened. I wouldn't say if you haven't seen that you're not saved. I think it's very personal. It was very nice of them to share it with us. And, of course, you have naysayers. That didn't happen. I mean, that's easy to say when you weren't there. That's really easy to say when you didn't witness this. Yeah, I think it did. I don't see a reason why an unbelieving husband would attest to it, but that's just me. All right, let me keep going here. And then that timeline graduated into this timeline. And this timeline was amazing because I could see, this is something Aaron said. I've said that many times. 6 days you shall work, and on the seventh day you shall rest. But why does it begin on Thursday? It begins on Thursday because it actually began down here on a Sunday. This was the first day of creation. And over here on the seventh day, God rested. It was a Saturday. This is Sunday. But when he got down here, he created time. So there's a second count. Over here is the Wednesday. I'm sorry. That's not, yeah, that's Wednesday. Wednesday is the same day Jesus went to the cross. So it interties and becomes symmetrical. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for, so CJ Lubbock said something, and somebody said something in a comment, says, well, if you count from this date and you go forward, the 49 just doesn't match anything. And so I ran it by Sister Sandy after I heard CJ Lubbock said, stop doing that. You can't just take a random event and start counting 49 and think you're going to make it to some other event. It doesn't work like that. The Jubilee cycles were from creation to the end. It was actually not to the 6,000 years, but it does match. But it is to the 7,000 year, um, the Jubilee cycle. And so I'll show that to you here in a moment as well. But CJ Lubbock said you cannot just jump in. And actually, Sister Sandy had told me that before. I didn't listen to her until I heard CJ Lubbock say it, and I am ashamed. No, I'm not. I just, when I hear something, I really want to give most things that people say time to understand. You can't come to me now, and maybe this is unfortunate, but after I see all this tie in, you can't come to me now and tell me that Jesus went to the cross on a Thursday. You can't. Creation began right here on a Sunday. The Bible's very clear on the first day of the week, and he rested on the Sabbath. This is the Sabbath. But then he creates time here. This is a Wednesday. Wednesday's the day Jesus went to the cross. It interlocks, interties, and I can't see how, with the years, and again, these are all the dates on the previous timeline. Or Sister Sandy did this for me, but mine was in crayon. She fixed it up like this. But when it all works out, it all comes to interlocking and it can't be changed. And so that's the second timeline, which is about a year ago. Then something told me to work on the Jubilee cycle. And the first thing I did was go 50 years. But when I laid it out, I actually heard Heather R. Um, is explaining this. And so I'm of the mind that if I can't explain it to the average person for them to understand, then it's not worth explaining. I'm that guy that explains it, I think, to the average person. And when I get questions about it, I like to be able to answer those questions with a full understanding of the Jubilee cycle. So here we have This is a Jubilee cycle. This is the first year of a Shemitah cycle of 49 years. This is the Jubilee cycle. It will last all year long. We are now entering one down here. We will enter this on March 17th, and this will be a full year Jubilee cycle, and it will be the first year of the Shemitah, 49-year Shemitah cycle. Then it dawns on me, and this is how it works for me. My brain keeps thinking that we have to, I put day 1, day 2, day 3, day 6, and then seventh day is the Sabbath. 6 years you shall work the land, and in the seventh year you shall rest. That's a week. That's a week. 7 weeks times 7 days in a week, that's 49. 49 weeks. But this is not the Jubilee. This is the Jubilee, and it shares with this. Now, Sister Sandy had an idea, and I'm studying it mathematically to see if it holds water, that while the Jubilee is supposed to start here, it's possible it starts here on September the 24th and goes over here to September the 24th, so that when they blow trumpets, that the Shemitah cycle moved to, and I don't know, I have to work on it. I'm not sure, but at any rate, what that would do in starting that a little bit late would bring the tribulation saints home before the end of the Jubilee and stop the tribulation from beginning in the Jubilee year. We can't have both. Either Jesus is taking people and saving them, pulling them out, or he's judging them. So I don't know. I have to work on that. That's a little bit something I have to think about. I have to work on that for a second. So I showed you how this Kaduri guy in 1979 predicted that there'd be two Benjamins warring for the office, and we see on March 16th of 2019. It says 2020, but remember the year doesn't change over until March 17th. Technically, it's still 5779 until sunset on March 16th will become 5780. And he said, he said on the eve of 5780, go look it up. What was the eve of 5780? That was March 16th, down here at the end of 5779. And in the paper or the thing that we read, it in fact happened on March 16th. That day happens to be the eve of 5780. So I was like, all right, hold on a second. This guy was right 40 years in advance about the two Benjamins warring, and there's a war in heaven going on. How is he wrong about the Sabbath? That's when it dawns on me. Each day of each day for a year. This is Sunday. 2018 was Sunday. 2019 was a Monday. On the eve of, which should have been down here, March 16th, of Tuesday. On Tuesday, this event transpired. This event transpired. That's when the two Benjamins were in there. And he said, on the Sabbath after, Jesus will come. This entire year from March 17th of 2024 until March 16th of 2025 will be 5784. It's not 5785. The Jews have never listened to their Bible at all. Exodus 12 was their first law of 613 laws. And if you put that backwards, it's 316, by the way. And of course, we have John 3:16. We have all kinds of math that works out to this, but 57, it will become 5785. This is the eve of, it will become 5785 on March 17th. So on March 17th, right here, March 17th, it will begin this Jubilee cycle. So that blows my mind that Kaduri and Shoshone were absolutely correct about the two Benjamins, but then blew it on the Sabbath after. And I'm like, how did you get? And I worked on it for a long time. I gave up on it. I was like, but this is it. It's because each day counts for a year. This was Tuesday. This was Wednesday. This is Thursday. This is Friday. This entire year was the Sabbath, the Saturday, and God said He will raise us up in the last day. I know it's the last day because he said, and he was right about everything else, he said that on the eve of 5780, that was March 16th when that was done. That was done in the Knesset on March 16th. That's the eve of 5780. And my mind was blown when I realized this. And so it confirms more and more to me every day that March 16th is the day. We will see, right? CJ Lovick said that you cannot, excuse me, and I really need to add to this and go 7,000 years because I'll show you the math here in a moment. But this was the creation of man in 4003 BC, but creation began on September 11th of 4004. On September the 15th, right here, the day before he created man, was the first day of time. The first day of time is when he switched it over to 4003. Now, when you go 123 Jubilee cycles, you will actually land here on September the 24th in the year 2025. But when you work out when Joshua entered into the promised land, so we're off by 6 months, but when Joshua entered in the triumphant entry right here, let me enlarge this thing. Joshua enters Israel. It's the year 2598. It's the year 1406 BC. He does this on March 26th. So this comes all the way down here and lands actually on Sister Sandy's time of the triumphant entry. That is actually accurate. March 26th, that's the triumphant entry. Because in Exodus 12, God changed the head of the year. So when I do all that, and I have the Jubilees nailed down, and I come to this conclusion, now I can work on the days, 1,000 years, 1,000 years is a day. This 4,000 years works out perfectly to 4,000 years and 7 days, 14 days. Why the 7 and 7? Because here is where Adam was created on September the 16th. But when you add 7 days, you come to, if you count the next day of the 17th, but you come to the Day of Atonement. And likewise, over here, when you count from September the 30th in 3 BC, when Jesus was actually born, you go back 7 days and you land on the Day of Atonement. It is symmetrical. So it is 4,000 years. Okay? So we have what we might consider a problem. Remember, we've already proven 2025. It's done. It's a done deal. That's 70 Shemitah cycle, 70 times 49, 3,430 years from Joshua entering the promised land. But how do we make this work? Where do we start from? Because if you count back from 2025, you're going to land squarely on 25 AD right here. How do you justify the year and a half difference between, see, now Jesus, Adam was created on September the 16th, and he was 26 and a half years old. At this point is when Jesus was baptized. It was the year 26 AD, September, which made it a half. It is symmetrical. It matches to Adam. He's come to replace Adam. September the 24th, 26 AD. Remember, when Adam was 7 years old when he was kicked out of the garden. 7 years old. That's how old Adam was when he was removed from the garden. Now, he was created with age. He was 26 and a half when he was created. And he was removed from the garden when he was 33 and a half. But he was 7 years old because he was only in the garden for 7 years. It's actually 7 years, and I think it was 92 days because this is where he sinned, and then he was removed on Tevet 1, which was the 10th month and first day, which is just after Hanukkah. So when we count, we have another count then. I've been saying for the longest time that there's two Jubilees running in tandem. They're running side by side. In 3996 BC, when you count 123 Jubilees, you will land here on September the 24th, 2032. And then, of course, September the 24th, 2025. But I've shown you how Joshua's triumphant entry applies right here because God changed the head of the year in Exodus 12. Now, when relationship to the 6,000 years, we have to deal with this starting point of 25 AD. How do we justify it not actually starting here? Well, miraculously enough, another channel, a lot of people have a lot of pieces of the puzzle. When I hear it and it starts rattling around in my head, I got to get it down on paper. We were arraigned. Our punishment was to toil in this dirt for 6,000 years. When he was up in that ark, he didn't. So for a year and 10 days, while he was up off the earth, that time Satan would have complained. Also, when God changed the head of the year, he could have just changed it to 2025 and ended it right there back then instead of, but Satan would say, wait a second. You said 6,000 years. A day is like 1,000 years. 1,000 years is like a day. It relates to the creation story. And that's how we get to our starting point of we come back, we give back that time. We give back that time from when Jesus was baptized. We give back that year and a half. It comes to March 16th, Nissan 1. And again, that's when the last day, 2025 at sunset, and you go 2,000 years and you wind up here on March 16th. So Sister Sandy's wrong and I'm right. Did I did I just say that out loud? She said, haha, I'm right, you're wrong, Sister Sandy. But we have both dates that are coming up very clearly, both dates, March 16th and March 26th. So maybe she's right. Maybe I'm right. I think I'm right. And then, of course, we saw this 3 plus 7 and this 7 plus 3, and yet another channel enlighten me on those numbers and what they mean. Jesus is dead for 84 hours. He wasn't in the grave for 4 days. He was in the grave for three. 84 hours is not 96 hours. It's 84, so it's still 3 days. And then 7 days, after 7 days, he goes up and he came out of a graveyard. He can't make the wave sheaf offering. He is unclean. He has to go somewhere and wait for 7 days, and then he makes the wave sheaf offering. And then he appears to Thomas in the upper room. Sorry, he appears to Thomas in the upper room here after making the wave sheaf offering. He disappears again. He disappears right in front of them. And the day is well spent, the Bible records that he just disappears in front of them. They go back to fishing. They go back to fishing. 7 days later, he appears on the shore. Cast your net on the other side. And then these 3 days, I never knew what they were for, but I do now. Because something goes on this planet during this. We're raptured over here on March 16th, but something happens during this 193-day period, this 6 months and 10 days, which is the amount of time it takes from March 16th to September the 24th, the next day of equal parts. So at any rate, let me keep going. Symmetrics, more symmetrics. This is the what the Wackadoodle Simone put up on that video that he made. I thought it was pretty cool. March 16th, 2020. Remember, the eve of it would still be 5779, but he's so good. He says on the eve of, and it is in fact on the eve of 5780 because it's still 5779. And he puts that. And I was like, well, I never did find that December 22nd yet. I'm still trying to figure out where I saw that. Let's see here. On the eve of the year 5780. That's March 16th. That's the eve of. That's too cool that worked out that way. That's Sister Sandy's house number that. Okay, I was working on that concept that perhaps the Jubilee actually begins. I don't know. I have to work that out. Oh, this is Heaven's Echoes by Looking Up. She does a lot of songs. She's put up several more since then. We got to get her some more subscribers. It's a lot of work what she's doing there. All right. So listen, send me emails, send me comments, but please be nice. Be nice. Don't do this. Pure nonsense. Don't say that, especially when you're wrong. You are a Seventh-day Adventist and you are trying to make the resurrection happen on a Saturday. And the Bible is abundantly clear that it happened on a Sunday. But if you want to learn and open your mind, come in and learn. But don't make comments like pure nonsense. That's not even nice. Why would you do that? He put a comment instead of a point, but he's saying 3.5 days, which is 84 hours, is pure nonsense. At least ask me. And if you don't want to know the truth, don't ask me because I'm going to tell you the truth. And I was a bit snippy, and I probably shouldn't have been, but I was. I said, "Do you read the Bible or just go into the comments section and make the most ridiculous statements, hoping no one checks out what you say against the Word of God?" And I gave him the 4 verses that clearly state that he rose on the first day of the week. And he comes back. I don't think I took a picture, but he comes back later, says, "Well, maybe you're reading the wrong Bible. Are you reading some Bible from the 1500s?" I'm like, I don't care what the Seventh Day Adventists changed the Bible do for you, but the King James clearly says it's the first day of the week. Just come in, and if you want to learn. Now, if you're dead set that Jesus rose on a Saturday, that's fine. But what if Jesus comes back tomorrow and says, "I never knew you because all you did was create havoc in chat rooms and try to peddle ideas that simply were not biblical." You got to be careful with that. You've got to at least want to know the truth. And the truth of the matter is he rose on Sunday. That's it. Jesus died at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, not Thursday, Wednesday. Mathematically, if the time was created on a Wednesday and the first day of Tishri 1 was a Thursday, and God rested on a Sabbath, a Saturday. Then Jesus went to the cross on a Wednesday. I challenge anyone: 6 days you work, seventh day you rest. Build your graph like I did, and show me how Tishri 1 is the first day of creation. And I will show you that you'll never get to the cross on a Wednesday, a Tuesday, or a Thursday. You'll get to that cross on Saturday, and you'll realize maybe at that point that you were inaccurate about the day. So now we could go a week later and a week later and say, well, it was April 14th. That's fine, because then that would still be accurate. We could say it's a different day, but the sliver moon will never work for that. At any rate, I digress. So 84 hours in total. Please take time to verify what you're thinking of saying against the word of God before making a comment. That was, I don't know, it's not typical of me. Apologize, but I just don't, just come in and ask, and rather than saying something stupid, don't say that, because it's not. It's actually accurate. I really don't know anybody. Does anybody know anyone that thinks Jesus rose on a Saturday? That just kind of caught me off guard, I guess. At any rate, Tuesday, March 30th in 30 AD, Jesus went to the cross. July 24th in 70 AD is the 9th of Av. It's the date the temple was destroyed. It turns out that's exactly 14,726 days. Does anybody see any prophetic numbers there in relationship to the cross and to the date the temple was destroyed? I do. So that's why it's going to be hard for me to get off the idea that it's 30 AD, 30 AD and March 30th. Now, I wanted to show you some math because I was listening to CJ Lovick on there with Got a Minute, Aaron, and there was some things he was throwing around. And he, in my opinion, I love CJ Lovick, and he is just waiting for the Lord to come back like we all are. So I'm just presenting my ideal, and maybe he's right, but here's my ideal. Creation happened in 4003 BC. It started in 4004, but 4003 BC. By the time we get 7 years down the road in 3996, Adam sins and is removed from the garden. Now, when you add 3996 to 2032, which is the end of the tribulation and when the millennium is due to begin, you have 6,028 years. What do we do with 6,028? It's gone over by 28 years because we have 6,000. Remember, though, that time Jesus to when he was baptized, from that time to that time. It's right in there with that. So the same thing here, 4003 to 2025 is 6,028. So I wanted to know our Jubilee cycle. Now, while this works mathematically, while this does work mathematically, I believe C.J. Lovick is correct. Our math should go from beginning to end. And there might be points along the way where we're going to find a Jubilee year represents something, but we can't start a Jubilee year from there. It actually begins at the beginning and ends at the end. But I think there's two Jubilees running in tandem. I think there's one at creation, and I think there's another one running when Adam sinned 7 years later. 123 Jubilee cycles, 6,027. You saw this, 6,028. We have to deal with that year zero all the time when we do the actual Jubilee is 6,027. This is dealing with the year zero. It's still 6,027 because of the way they count that from AD to BC, or BC to AD. Now, I said, well, let me go out because C.J. Lovick said something, and let's go out the 7,000 years. Now he said 144 times 49, and the closest I can get to a full 7,000 years is this. But we still have, and this is Jubilee cycles now, so that counts from the beginning to the end. There's no gaps. There's no, Noah's on the ark, none of that stuff. That's for the days, 1,000 years of the day. This is a different count. This is a Jubilee count. But 143 doesn't really give us an accurate number because we're already at 4003 BC to 2025 AD. We're already at 6028 or 6027 with that 0 year. We've already gone over. And to say that the millennium lasts 1,000 years, now you're looking at 7,027, right? Mathematically, 7,028 you're looking at. So we have no choice but to go 144 Jubilees of 49 years, 7,056. Now it all falls in there. It all falls within it. If we take 2032, which is the end of the tribulation, we leave with 24 years, 24 years left over. Because again, we're at 2032, and then we have the 3 years before. So that's 6,035 years. Oh, 6,035. I did the math wrong. 6,035 leaves us with 21 years, right? I did the math wrong. 7,056 minus 6,032. I'll have to go back and let me look at that real quick. I did the math wrong on that. 7,056. Oh, no, I did it right. 7,056 is the term that we see for the 144 Jubilees. And then we're going to subtract the year. We're going to subtract, it's actually 6,035. I did make a mistake. It's 6,035 because 3 BC. At 4,003 BC, I forgot those 3 years. This total is 6,035. Even though it's the year 2032, we have to remember those 3 years back there. And so this is 1,021 days. The millennium is 1,000 years long. It looks like there's something going on here for 21 years. And to me, that sounds a lot like, now when it says in the Bible, Jesus will rule and reign for 1,000 years, it doesn't say 990 years or 994. And then Satan will be loosed to tempt everyone for a little season. Define a little season. Again, I did the math wrong, but define a little season. I think a little season is 21 years. Could that be the delay we saw, a 21-day delay that we saw for the Prince of Persia or something was holding him up for 21 days? Could that be what that was in relationship to? I don't know. But mathematically, the Jubilee lands on 7,056, and then you subtract, it was 6,035, and you would come to 1,021 years. And so thought that looked pretty cool. So, all right, let me stop sharing. All right, so at any rate, I just wanted to give you a video. I am going to work for the next 7 days if I can sneak away, and I'm 60. I'm getting tired. I want to go to work. Just 10 more days, and 7 of them I get to work before I have another day off. It's like It's like a slap in the face, right? So anyway, Repo Man 64, we are out of time. We're out of time. I keep saying it, but we're out of time. I pray an angel visits your front door with a disbelieving spouse and knocks on the door and simply says, the rapture is about to happen. And by the time she turned around, I guess to go get her husband or I don't know what she turned around. I guess if he was there to witness it, right? Or something, or they said, okay, and close the door. And then they realized, wait a minute, that was an angel. And they went outside. This person had disappeared. They couldn't find them. And I don't know. I can't walk that fast. Maybe it was a younger person, angel. So I pray that that happens, or an angel at the foot of your bed and tells you this. And if he does, go ahead and tell everyone about it. Tell me about it. Tell Wackadoodle Simone about it. Um, and expect some people to get in there and go, it's not true. I don't believe it. I don't know why anybody would lie about something like that. They weren't asking for any money or anything. They were just making a statement that that happened. I believe it. So that would be awesome if that happened. So anyway, um, we will chat with you again in 7 or 8 days, unless something comes up, which I fully expect something will come up, and I'll sneak out here and do a little video, or we're just raptured out of here. We shall see. Chat with you all again later.